guys, and welcome to the channel. Welcome to another video. Another round of Premier League fixtures is almost upon us. The upcoming weekend is set to throw up some huge games in the Premier League as the table continues to take shape ahead of what is obviously becoming a very intriguing and very interesting season, to say the least. And of course, in this video, it is where I go through each and every single game that is coming up this weekend, talk about it, and obviously give my thoughts and of course my predictions on the outcome and the scorelines of each and every single Premier League game coming up in the latest round of Premier League fixtures. Before we get into all of that though, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and thoroughly greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get into the predictions. We're kicking things off with Friday night's games, so fantasy football managers, do get your teams in order for Friday night's encounter as Brentford take on Brighton. A very intriguing game ahead for both sides. Brentford will want to get back to winning ways after getting that 5-1 thumping by Newcastle last weekend, whilst Brighton obviously lost themselves. They'll want to get back to winning ways as well, as they lost 1-0 to Tottenham. A very intriguing game ahead between two teams who like to get the ball down and play some nice and attractive football at times. Brentford will probably look to try and hit Brighton on the counter-attack. They might allow them to have a bit more of the ball despite being at home, of course, and they'll want to try and hit them on the counter. Brighton will have to try and deal with that whilst also being a bit more progressive, shall we say, and more proactive when they have the ball in their possession, more so than they were last week against Tottenham, which was a bit of their downfall, to be honest. They seem to run out of ideas a little bit towards the end of that game. But what we could be seeing here is a very intriguing game of football for our Friday night viewing. As far as a prediction goes, look, either side could go on and win it. This game could go any which way. Brentford on their day are very good. Brighton on their day are very good. They're still finding their feet under their new manager, of course. But I'm going to call it down the middle, and I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. Next, we're going to be moving on to the Saturday games. And first up, we're at the King Power Stadium for Leicester City hosting Crystal Palace. Very intriguing game and prospect, this one, especially for Leicester, who are under increasing pressure, especially their manager Brendan Rodgers after last weekend's defeat, that comeback that occurred when Bournemouth managed to beat the Foxes by 2-1. Whilst Palace were on the right end of a 2-1 scoreline, of course, last Sunday when they beat Leeds by that scoreline, and what was a very good result for Patrick Vieira's side. Intriguing game. Like I say, Leicester we know have a very good squad. They just haven't shown their quality enough this season. There's an underwhelmingness about them. There's an underperforming level about them. There's a bit of staleness, I guess we'd say, about them. Haven't shown it enough this season, but we do know that when they want to, when they can turn on the quality whenever they have the opportunity to. Whilst Palace, of course, we know that they like to get the ball down and play some nice football at times. Patrick Vieira's done a great job since obviously taking over with that squad. Very good squad indeed. And I'm sure that they'll be fancying their chances against a Leicester City side that are seemingly there for the taking. Look, Leicester to get something out of this game isn't out of the realms of possibility, but I've got to go with the form team in this one, and I'm going to say that Palace win this game, and they win this game by 2-1. Next up, Fulham against Bournemouth. Fulham, I guess you might say that the wheels are starting to come off their season a little bit with a couple of defeats in their past couple of games. Last weekend, of course, they lost 3-1 in that London derby to West Ham, whilst for Bournemouth, picked up a very good result against Leicester. We were just talking about it. They beat Leicester by 2-1. A late comeback in the second half ensured the 3 points for Bournemouth. And things are starting to look up from earlier on this season, where where Bournemouth couldn't get a win. They had a very tough start. Things are starting to look up, and I think again they might be fancying their chances in this game. Like I say, for Fulham, a couple of bad performances, bad results in the past few weeks. Might fancy their chances against obviously a fellow side that some may say maybe relegation candidates as well, despite obviously their very good start to the season. This one could be very intriguing. This one could finish any which way. They'll of course have to deal with Fulham's direct approach. Bournemouth have a direct approach themselves. Could be a very intriguing game for those kinds of reasons when you fight fire with fire. But as far as my prediction goes, look, Fulham, I said earlier on in the season that if the bubble was to burst, it would burst hard. I said that if Mitrovic isn't scoring, I don't see where Fulham get a consistent amount of goals from. For Bournemouth, I guess the jury's still out on this manager. Is this just a bit of a new manager bounce? I don't know what this kind of is. I'm going to call it down the middle. I'm going to say it's going to be a 2-2 draw when the referee blows his full-time whistle. Next up, we're at Molineux for Nottingham Forest's away trip to Wolves in another Midlands clash for Forest. I think this makes it 3 Midlands clashes on the bounce for Steve Cooper's side. They'll be hoping for better luck this time when they take on a managerless Wolves, of course, who last time out lost 3-0 to Chelsea, whilst Forest managed to stop the rot a little bit with a 1-1 draw against Aston Villa on Monday night. Obviously, two sides very much in need of the win here. Forest lifted off the bottom of the table thanks to that point on Monday night, but of course the rest doesn't stop there. As for Wolves, they are managerless. They are still in search of a new manager following the sacking of Bruno Lage a couple of weeks ago, and will obviously be wanting the points against the Nottingham Forest side, who, like I say, are there for the taking, and I think both sides will definitely fancy their chances in this game of getting a victory. You're looking at a team in Wolves who are the lowest scorers in the division. You're looking at a team in Nottingham Forest that have got a pretty chaotic defence that I don't think Aston Villa took too much advantage of on Monday night, hence why they only managed to draw. This one could be very intriguing for all the wrong reasons for both sides, to be honest. So, yeah, definitely one to keep an eye out for. It's another Midlands clash, like I say, so it's a tiny bit of a derby. Again, as far as the result goes, this one is again another one that could go any which way. I'm going to predict another draw because I can't separate these two because of how poor both teams kind of are in certain aspects. So I'm going to go for another draw. I'm going to say that this game will end 1-1 come the final whistle. Next up, Saturday's evening clash takes place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It is Tottenham, obviously, at home, surprisingly, and Everton away in the away corner. It is Antonio Conte against Frank Lampard. This one could be very intriguing nonetheless. You've of course got Spurs, who last time out managed to get back to winning ways with a 1-0 victory over Brighton. You've got Everton, who are looking to get back to winning ways following a 2-1 defeat to Manchester United last Sunday. Again, intriguing. Intriguing because Spurs, like I say, have not been convincing to me for the majority of this season. You've got Everton, who may be a little bit unlucky not to have got anything against Manchester United last week, but even so, have been poor for the majority of this season. Again, I think the home advantage and the quality of certain individuals with Spurs might just get them over the line here, but that isn't to say that it isn't out of the realms of possibility that Everton could potentially nick something here. Also, you've got to factor in Tottenham are going to be in action midweek with the Champions League game that they've got, so that could also be a factor as well. Could be a very intriguing game when you consider all of these factors together. You might have a bit of an interesting game on your hands for your Saturday night viewing. As far as your prediction goes, look, like I say, I think the individuals of Spurs might just get them over the line here, and that's why I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory in favour of Antonio Conte's men. Moving on to Sunday's games, and it's under fire in hot water manager Steven Gerrard, who will be having his side Aston Villa host Chelsea, who are starting to really come to form under Graham Potter right now. That will be the first game on Sunday. Aston Villa, of course, drew 1-1 with Nottingham Forest on Monday night. Chelsea were 3-0 winners against Wolves last time out, and of course followed that up with a very convincing 2-0 victory over AC Milan midweek in the Champions League. like I say, Chelsea under Graham Potter right now are starting to really find their feet, and they are starting to play some very nice football at times, and defensively they're looking pretty solid as well. So it's all looking pretty sound for Chelsea right now. It's all looking pretty good, pretty upbeat. Everything's looking pretty good. Fortunately, the same thing cannot be said for Steven Gerrard, who, despite the fact they're coming into this game 4 games unbeaten, I believe, are not in the best of form, not in the best of ways in terms of performances. They need to start getting wins together, but there is a silver lining in the fact that they're making themselves a little bit more difficult to beat than they were a few weeks or months ago. So it does leave it to be very intriguing. Obviously, Gerrard will want to get one over on a former foe. You can imagine it will take the Chelsea fans no longer than probably a millisecond to start singing the infamous Steven Gerrard song that they tend to sing at him. So that's going to be, obviously, if you're going to play like Steven Gerrard's song Bingo or whatever it's called, I imagine it would take less than half a second for them to actually do that. But in terms of the game and the performances, look, like I say, Chelsea are coming into this one in very good form. They're playing some very good football right now. It's hard to see them not win this game, as much as obviously I would like Steven Gerrard and Aston Villa to pick up the points in this one. But I'm going to have to be honest, I'm going to have to be proper about this, and I'm going to say that Chelsea will win this game, and they'll win this game by 3 goals to 1. Next up, we're off to Elland Road for Arsenal's trip to Leeds. Again, this one could actually be one of the more predictable games, shall we say. Leeds coming into this one in pretty bad form, to be honest. Last weekend, of course, they lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace, whilst Arsenal will be still buzzing from that victory over Liverpool last Sunday in what was a 3-2 victory in favour of Mikel Arteta's side, of course. And of course, Arsenal still remain on top of the Premier League. Everything is looking very good for Arsenal right now, and they'll be even looking forward to this game more and more because, like I say, Leeds are coming into this one in pretty bad form. It is going to be at Elland Road, so it might be a bit hostile, it might be a bit unnervy. It's just another obstacle for Arsenal to overcome, but with the way that they're playing right now, with the confidence level that's brimming from this squad, with everything that's going right for Arsenal right now, they will certainly fancy their chances. And like I say, they should be winning this game, and I think they will win this game. I don't see a world in which Arsenal do not win this game with the way that they're playing and with the way that their confidence is just growing and growing and growing with every passing game. Like I say, one of the more predictable games I think that will happen this weekend, one of the easier ones to predict in my opinion. Don't necessarily rule Leeds out. It's never a foregone conclusion, especially not in the Premier League. But like I say, I think the likelihood is that Arsenal will win, and that is why I'm going to go for a 2-0 Gunners win. Next up, we're at Old Trafford. Manchester United will be playing host to Newcastle United, a historic Premier League game in prospect here. Very intriguing. Obviously, Man United come into this game back to winning ways with a 2-1 victory last weekend over Everton. Then you've got Newcastle, who have actually put together a couple of good performances and results themselves these past couple of weeks. A massive 5-1 victory over Brentford last week. Intriguing game in prospect, this one, because again, these are two sides that are really starting to build under their managers. You've got Eric Ten Hag, who's starting to put something together with Manchester United. You've got Newcastle, that have obviously done very good under Eddie Howe since he's come into the fold. It's going to be a very intriguing game and a very difficult one to call, because I think that when you look at Manchester United, they've got a few form players. You've got Anthony, who's really hit the ground running since coming in. You've got a couple of other players really starting to find their feet. You've got Newcastle, who have got Bruno Guimaraes back, and he's really, really good, and he's obviously in form. You've got Miguel Almiron, who's randomly started to find a bit of good form as well. So this one could be a very, very intriguing game, and definitely one to look out for this weekend. This one could be a very intriguing and an interesting game to watch. which is why it makes a prediction difficult, because you could see this game going either which way. The home advantage may suit Manchester United a little bit more, for obvious reasons, but Newcastle are not bad, and they're not a bad side. They're a very good footballing side. Eddie Howe's got this team well drilled. Like I say, they've got a few individuals to keep your eyes on. Guimaraes in that midfield, that's going to be a very big battle for him and for Newcastle as a whole, and even for Manchester United as a whole. That sometimes, when it gets physical, when it gets tough, sometimes that midfield can go a bit missing. So that could be intriguing to see who plays in that midfield and who comes out on top in this game. Like I say, you've got an informed Miguel Almiron, you've got Callum Wilson, of course, who will always be a bit of a threat. And on the other side, of course, you've got match winners that can perk up at any moment. Martial's found a bit of form, Rashford's found a bit of form, Anthony, like I said, hit the ground running. Fernandes can spring into life at any moment. Christian Eriksen can produce a moment of magic. This one is going to be very, very interesting, to say the least. But again, I cannot pick a proper winner. It's going to be very intriguing. I cannot pick a winner because I can't really separate them, in my head at least. I think this is going to be a very intriguing battle. And that is why I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to call it down the middle. Either side could nick it, could go any which way, but I'm going to say that this game will end 2-2 come the final whistle. For the penultimate game on this list, we're at St Mary's. Southampton are hosting West Ham. Southampton, of course, last weekend lost 4-0 to Manchester City, whilst West Ham got back to winning ways with a 3-1 victory in a London derby over Fulham. Again, another intriguing game. Southampton obviously not in the best of form. West Ham starting to kind of find their feet a little bit after what was a difficult start to life in the new campaign. Form-wise does suggest that West Ham would win. Southampton do have a tendency to throw a spanner in the works on the odd occasion. Could this be a week in which Southampton shock a little bit, get back to winning ways? Ralph Hasenhutl's side do tend to do that when they're on a bit of a bad run of form. This one could be a bit more difficult to call than what many people are thinking of. But in saying that, I think with the way that West Ham are starting to find their form a little bit, I think the extra games have kind of helped them a little bit in terms of obviously the Europa Conference League thing, getting everybody back up to speed. I'm going to go with West Ham just because it's the more favourable and likely result. Obviously, I'm not entirely confident. This one could be one I get proved wrong in, and maybe Southampton do spring a surprise. But I'm going to go with West Ham, and I'm going to say that David Moyes' side come out of this one as 2-1 winners. And finally, it's arguably the biggest game of this round of fixtures. It is at Anfield. It is Liverpool in the red corner. It is Manchester City in the blue corner. It is easily the biggest game of this round of fixtures, and I for one am absolutely dreading this. And I never thought I'd be saying that as a Liverpool fan. Even when we were terrible, I would always go into a game at least a little bit confident, but I am absolutely dreading this. I am dreading watching this game on Sunday. I cannot tell you how much I do not want to watch this game. Is there anything else on? Is there like songs of praise on or something? I don't know. Anything else rather than this game on Sunday, please. Because with the way that Liverpool are right now, and with the form and the performance level that City are performing at right now, this one could be an absolute massacre. This one could be an absolute bloodbath. And I'm really, really not here for it. Liverpool, of course, last week lost 3-2 to Arsenal. Manchester City beat Southampton 4-0. They are chasing Arsenal at the top of the table. Liverpool are faltering in mid-table. They've been poor all season. They've got a couple of injuries to a couple of key players. Luis Diaz being the latest. Trent Alexander-Arnold's unavailable. Joel Matip's unavailable. Erling Haaland for Manchester City is in sparkling and scintillating form right now. Phil Foden is in scorching red hot form. I think I don't think I've ever been this. I don't think I've never been this not confident of a game at Anfield at home for Liverpool in so long. I don't like. Of course, at the end of the day, it's never a foregone conclusion. Maybe on this occasion, maybe Haaland's having an off day. Maybe Liverpool managed to sneak a point or something. Maybe they get lucky and there's like a last minute penalty or something along those lines. Maybe City are having an off day. Maybe the stars align and Liverpool get something. I've never not been this unconfident of a game at Anfield because, like I say, Liverpool right now playing very poorly. Manchester City playing some amazing football. Got players that are in red hot form, and I'm not looking forward to this game whatsoever. I think this could be a very favourable result. A result that maybe a lot of people are predicting. I'd be interested to see if there is anybody that's actually predicting Liverpool to win or a draw. I'd love to say that Liverpool will win this game. I'd love to say that this is the game we turn up to. I'd love to say that this is the game we shock people in. But I've got to be real. I've got to be honest. And I've got to say that I don't see it happening. And I think, like I say, with the way that City are playing football right now, with the way that Liverpool's defence looks scared of their own shadow, if they're scared of their own shadow, imagine what they're going to be like when they're facing Erling Haaland, who is absolutely unbelievable. He's a joke. He's a phenom. He is sublime. He's just a joke, isn't he? He's just an absolute joke. So yeah, if you haven't guessed already, my prediction is basically Manchester City are walking away with this game with 3 points. If I'm right in thinking, Virgil van Dijk, when he started for Liverpool at Anfield, hasn't lost since obviously being a Southampton player. That, I believe, will come to an end on Sunday. Yeah, I'm going for a City win. Pep Guardiola's side walk out with the 3 points. And City win this game by, at the very least, 3-1. 3-1 City is what I'm going for. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, and most of all, of course, predictions of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this week's round of Premier League fixtures that's coming up this weekend? What are your own thoughts, your comments, opinions, but most of all, of course, your predictions on every game that's coming up this weekend in the latest round of Premier League fixtures. Also, fantasy football managers, who do you see having a good week? Who do you see having a bad week? Who are you putting into your squad? Who are you taking out of your squad? That could make for interesting reading as well down below in the comment section. But of course, leave your predictions because after all, this is a Premier League predictions video. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way up. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things always and thoroughly greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Premier League prediction show. I'm not ready for Sunday yet, I'm not going to lie to you. Definitely not ready for Sunday, but fingers crossed Liverpool can pull it out of the bag. And I'll see you and speak to you all again soon in another video.